Good morning from beautiful Sydney, Australia. Today, I'm heading back to Thailand with Qantas on their A330-300. With their interiors and layouts being different from their 200 series, I've flown on both before, and the 300 series is significantly better. I've flown on this exact flight twice before and found the economy seat and service really good. The A330 is typically a pretty crappy plane to fly on, but Qantas in the past has made it that much better. Even with the peak departure bank here at Sydney's International Terminal, it took little time to get through check-in, drop our bags, and get through customs and security. I haven't had McDonald's in a while, and honestly it's kind of disgusting, but I couldn't pass up on the famous Macca's here in the International Terminal. The terminal here is getting some apron work done, so today's flight is leaving from a bus gate, a first for me here. They had about 3 flights leaving from here, but they looked like they were already finished by the time we came down. Boarding started 20 minutes prior to departure time. Obviously this is pretty late for an aircraft of this size, but I'm pretty sure they had some crews show up late. I always see some of these buses parked near the taxiways. They were starting to look like a bit of a museum piece. What didn't help at all was the aircraft was parked near the domestic terminal, but it made for some nice views though. This A330-300 series has been with Qantas for 20 years now. Despite the age, it has a pretty modern and updated cabin. For example, the Panasonic IFE that is responsive with USB-A on the bottom. Below is a handy storage shelf for your phone or smaller items. The tray table is a 2-part design and was an acceptable size. In the seat back pocket, you'll find your usual magazine and safety card. This seat has 31 inches of pitch and is only 17 inches wide, but it has a generous amount of recline. But what doesn't help is the window seat has a box for the IFE, eating up part of the foot space. Last but not least, there is one universal power outlet shared between the 2 seats. Also waiting at every seat is a blanket and a pillow.
Why you have 2?
The IFE had a pretty good selection, including some options from Paramount Plus. This actually led me to discover that they made a new season of Reno 911. The only downfall to this, which is honestly pretty pathetic, is the map. This is a rolling map, and is completely outdated for this modern of an IFE screen. On top of that, it wasn't even working for the entire flight, it was just frozen. So here's where things went from okay to understandingly annoying. First, we had a couple passengers requiring mobility assistance. So, on a remote gate, that requires a high lift truck since they can't walk up the stairs. So that just eats up a bit more time. Secondly, after those passengers were seated and the flight was ready to go, another route crew took the pushback tractor for another flight. So that took another 10 minutes waiting. In all, we pushed back 90 minutes past departure time. The long taxi to the runway didn't really help our case at all. Personally, it didn't really matter to me too much because I was staying in Bangkok, but a handful of passengers had connections once we arrived.
Brace position appropriate to your seat. If you can reach the seat in front, brace by folding your arms and resting your forehead on your arms.
After a bit of a choppy takeoff, bottles of water were handed out. They were decent sized ones rather than stubby ones handed out by other airlines. The lavatory is your standard 330 affair, with extra lights along the mirror and marble-like flooring. Before the meal service started, snacks were handed out. I always think this is a great touch before any meal service. Think of it as an appetizer before the main course. They had the food offerings available on the IFE for today's flight, but when I saw that Wagyu beef was on there, it was too good to be true. And lo and behold, it was. This is definitely not Wagyu beef, although it didn't taste half as bad. And the focaccia bread was pretty good to wipe out the gravy and drippings. The cherry on top of this meal was the limesicle ice cream bar. So good, I went to the galley and asked for seconds. Before passing out, I went against my own merits of drinking potable water from the planes, as they had water fountains in the cabin. It was dispensing cool water, so I imagine they have some sort of filtration system on board. After passing out and getting a few hours nap, one last meal service came through. I opted for the pasta, and it was kinda mediocre at best. My mom got the fried rice and didn't like it at all. So for the most part, besides the big delay, why do I think Qantas isn't as good as it used to be? Well, mainly, it comes down to the service and the operation that Qantas has now. The last 2 flights I had with them, the staff on the ground and in the air were just kinda so-so. In the past, on this exact same flight, twice might I add, the flight attendants were outstanding and exceptionally friendly. Even the one time my dad took them, he has had nothing but nice things to say about them. But on my last 2 flights, between Brisbane and Sydney and Bangkok, that same spark wasn't there. And you know what? This is primarily from cutbacks and outsourcing that Qantas has done during the pandemic. Qantas fired all their ground handlers and contracted it out. This has led to a lower quality standards across the airline, from dummying bags on a baggage belt to even being short on equipment. Although the last one is fairly common across major airlines, especially one in particular. Even the ground staff in the terminal, half of them were contracted out and just had the mentality of doing the bare minimum just to get the job done. I've also heard that some flight attendants aren't even Australian based, but are based in neighboring Pacific countries for lower salaries and working standards. I mean, even after all that criticism, I still found some things enjoyable on that flight, like the interior, IFE, and catering. But in all honesty, I found that this experience was disappointing compared to when I've flown with Qantas in the past. That doesn't mean I won't fly with Qantas again, but in the future, I'll be broadening my options when flying to, from, and within Australia. Thai Airways also had a good option too, and that plane actually left on time that day. But I hope the criticism I have doesn't get taken for being ungrateful. I'm very fortunate to be able to do what I'm doing, as many people in this world won't even have the same opportunities to begin with. I really hope you found this video enjoyable, and if you liked this video, feel free to drop a like and subscribe. Thanks again, and I'll see you in the next one. Cheers.